Dinesh, can we pause the video a bit so that the other panelists can check their audio video for a bit? Yeah. Hi, Gayatri, Ratna, Murugan. I just wanted, if you want to check your audio and video, I think now is a good time.
Hi. I'm doing well. Thank you so much. It's Gayatri here.
Hi, Gayatri. Good to see you.
Hi, Monisha. How are you?
Hi, Murugan. Thank you. You're perfectly visible, audible, all of that. And Ratna, would you like to just check your...
Hi, Murugan.
Yes. Yeah. All good. All good. So great. We've got all the panel here. Who else is... Yeah. So everyone's here. So now we're waiting for some of the speakers. And Viresh, you can maybe loop. So we'll start exactly. So it's just, I think, 2 minutes left. Hopefully they'll all join in. So we'll give it another 3-4 minutes and then start. So if you'd like to switch off your videos for now, you could. I'm going to do that. Viresh, you can play the loop if you'd like to.
Yes, we're going back.
Can you shut that door and not come here at all now?
Hello, everyone. Can everybody hear me? A very good evening to each and every one of you and a very warm welcome. Thank you for joining us for the virtual launch of Future Learn in collaboration with Anudeep Foundation and Capgemini. We're very excited to have you here with us today, and we have a very interesting evening planned. Just to kickstart things, I would like to invite Monisha Banerjee, CEO, Anudeep Foundation for Social Welfare, to set the context for the program and the evening. Monisha's career spans over 25 years across the field of education and allied services, where she has worn a range of hats managing academics, product, operations, and revenue. As the CEO of Anudeep Foundation, Monisha has moved over to the development space to give full-time attention to solving the employability problem in India. Please join me in welcoming Monisha to say a few words and to set the context for the evening. Over to you, Monisha.
Thank you, Alka, and good evening, everyone. It is indeed a very, very exciting day for us at Anudeep. Our Future Learn product is finally getting launched. So the concept of Future Learn sort of struck us way back in 2018 when we realized that employers were increasingly asking for a very different set of skills from the students that we train. And we soon realized that if we didn't change the construct and the way we were skilling, we would not be relevant and we would not be able to continue to impact the lives of our students. So while I'm not going to spend too much time dwelling on the product because there's a lot of that coming up later. I just want to sort of share that in 2019, we started our journey of research. So we've had conversations with academia, industry, students, and communities. And in 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, we got a call from Anurag Pratap of Capgemini saying that the product had been funded, and that's when it was born. So I really want to take this opportunity to thank the wonderful team at Capgemini for being consistently supportive, not just with the funding, but also with giving so much of time in terms of inputs to the content, so that we were able to really come up with a product that is ready for a global audience. I also want to thank the leadership team at Capgemini. So Ashwin, Shobha, Gayatri, Pallavi, Anurag, thank you very much for giving us your time here today. I know it's very difficult for you to spare this 1 hour, but we really appreciate that. So thank you very much. And the highlight of today's event perhaps is a very power-packed panel discussion that we have with a very distinguished set of panelists. So a big shout out to all of you, Ashok, Radha, Murugan, Ratish, Gayatri, and Ratna, for being with us today, for giving us time. We've got over, I think, 300 people on YouTube already registered who are all watching us live, and several more are expected to join. So we're all looking forward to the discussions. So without much, any other conversation, I'd like to hand over the baton to Alkananda to proceed with the rest of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Monisha. So just to take off from there, let's take a little more time to look at the challenge that Monisha is highlighting and the problem that we're together trying to solve through Future Learn. I would like to show you a quick video which highlights these challenges and also defines the problem statement. Could we have the video, please?
The first word is achieve. Everybody say after me, achieve. Achieve.
Over the ages, education systems have primarily required learners to accumulate knowledge. Academic institutions provided access to content and standardized instruction, through which such accumulation could take place at scale. Evaluation systems focused on knowledge retention rather than application or analysis, preparing students for workplaces where professional knowledge evolved slowly and workers enjoyed the stability of a job for life. Not anymore.
The telecom and IT revolution have really changed the rules of the game in the 21st century workplace. Change and innovation are progressing at a phenomenal pace, and therefore the skill sets that people need are changing rapidly. In fact, 45% of the job roles in the BFSI and IT sector in India require completely new skill sets. In this context, the notion of a single lifelong skill is fairly obsolete. What is required now is lifelong learning.
With automation and AI transferring most routine tasks from humans to machines, millions of human jobs will disappear over the next decade. While technological progress will also create many new jobs, employers have started to demand a new range of skills from human workers, which traditional education systems do not inculcate in learners.
স্কুল বা কলেজে যে সমস্ত পড়াশোনাগুলো হয় সেটা একেবারেই থিওরির উপর বেসিস করে, সেখানে কি করে মুখস্থ করা যায় এবং সেখান থেকে কিভাবে ভালো মার্কস পাওয়া যায় সেটার উপর বেশি ফোকাস থাকে। আমার এখনকার জবের ক্ষেত্রে ডেটা ভ্যালিডেশন, ডেটা অ্যানালাইসিস, অফিস অ্যাপ্লিকেশন এর কোনো অংশই আমাকে স্কুল বা কলেজ থেকে শেখানো হয়নি।
In my school and college days, we students were just confined to learn the textbook knowledge. We were lacking critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, certain behavioral skills such as team building skills, communication, and certain job etiquettes were not covered in our current education system, due to which we all actually struggle to get a job and also retain in a job.
Employers confirm this transformation of workplace requirements.
Even a few years ago, AI data annotation relied heavily on crowdsourcing of low-skilled workers. Today, we work in advanced use cases like medical AI, geospatial, and autonomous vehicle. We need our employees to be continuous learners who are adept at pattern recognition, logical reasoning, collaboration, and communication.
This is a tall ask for a company that prides itself on its unique workforce, with more than 80% sourced from various high-need communities. In fact, iMerit's mission of creating digital livelihoods for underserved youth reflects the challenge that emerging economies such as India or Africa face, with millions of such youth joining the labor force every year. Without any formal training in vocational skills, such youth may face unemployment or underemployment on a massive scale, with serious economic and social consequences. All these are happening at a time when human civilization, especially marginalized populations, already face grave existential threats: climate change, food shortages, natural calamities, pandemics, and so on. To address these challenges, we need emerging 21st century citizens to chart a new course of understanding, cooperation, and collaboration.
How do we ensure that the youth of today inculcate the 21st century skills needed to survive and thrive as professionals and global citizens going forward? This is the fundamental question we need to tackle to safeguard the future of youth.
Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that it helped provide further clarity on the problem that we are solving together. We all know that the world has changed completely in the last 1 year. The whole learning landscape has changed, especially for communities from a weaker socioeconomic background. To talk a little about that, we now have a very special guest from Capgemini, Ms. Pallavi Tyagi. Pallavi Tyagi is the Chief Human Resources Officer, CHRO, for Capgemini in India. As India's CHRO, she drives the HR and talent strategy for Capgemini in India and serves as its representative in the global Capgemini HR leadership team. Pallavi has been a major force behind Capgemini CSR initiatives, and I would now request Pallavi to share some of her insights. Over to you, Pallavi.
Thank you so much, Alaknanda, and for the kind words. We've already seen what I want to say in the video. So we all know that we have various social challenges like many other nations. We talked about that as well. There exists multiple mechanisms to serve individuals from disadvantaged communities to overcome these challenges. It is in this context that our CSR vision, led by Anurag Pratap, cater to these communities through our diverse interventions delivered by our project partners. Our CSR programs on education and livelihoods in the past have focused on providing quality learning experiences through digital literacy centers and digital academies set up across India, committed to ensuring our communities get all the support that they need to learn, to grow, and eventually what we spoke about right in the beginning, employability, and come out of the poverty cycle they are embedded in. So if we look at some of the changes that happened in 2020, we all know that we all got caught in the pandemic, and that took the world by a storm, pushing our already vulnerable groups back to the brink. This unfortunate circumstance also shook the very structure of our projects, where they were pushed to devise alternate mechanisms to connect with our beneficiaries, as well as carry out interventions with the same vigor. Despite the bottlenecks, we've been able to cater to over 4,000 youth
using multiple virtual platforms and have been able to successfully adapt to the new normal. Through our plethora of initiatives, we've been able to reach out to communities, not only with carefully crafted interventions, but also formulated innovative and engaging virtual platforms to engage our enthusiastic youth who are poised to be the face of change in a transformational way. And we'll see and hear more. Thank you, and back to you, Alaknanda.
Thank you so much, Pallavi. So we've been hearing snippets of the problem at hand and what the future might look like. So I think it's now time to move on to our highlight for the evening, the main event, the panel discussion on human workers in the age of automation. What does the future hold? It gives me great pleasure to introduce our very illustrious panelists who bring together diverse experiences and are all established leaders in the development space. Our first panelist is Ms. Ratna Mehta, Global Head, Catalyst Fund, Wadhwani Foundation. Ratna is a private equity investor with more than 18 years of experience across investing, consulting, and banking. Her expertise spans the entire life cycle of investing, portfolio turnarounds, and exits across multiple investments. She currently heads the Wadhwani Catalyst Fund, which will invest in high-quality entrepreneurs with scalable business models across emerging markets with a focus on India. Our second panelist today is Ms. Radha Basu, CEO, iMerit Technology Services. Radha Basu is the founder and CEO of iMerit, a leading tech entrepreneur and a pioneer in the India software business. Before founding iMerit, Radha served as the chairman and CEO of SupportSoft, where she led the company to become a worldwide market leader in support automation software. And prior to that, at Hewlett-Packard, where she played a pivotal role in the India operations. Our third panelist is Mr. Murugan Vasudevan, Head South Asia Social Innovation Group, Cisco. Murugan has decades of experience in corporate social responsibility, business development, social investment, and philanthropy. As the head of the Social Innovation Group for Cisco in South Asia, he's responsible for Cisco's social investments around human capacity building, workforce development, and community, including the flagship programs Cisco Networking Academy and the India Social Investments Program. Our next panelist is Ms. Gayatri Ramamurthy, Senior Director, Learning and Development, Capgemini India. Gayatri is an HR professional and currently responsible for learning and development and diversity and inclusion in India. Additionally, she's part of the core team of the global program on women at Capgemini to enable gender balance and build a platform for women to accelerate into leadership. Our fifth panelist is Mr. Ratish Balakrishnan, co-founder and managing partner at Sattva Consulting. Ratish leads Sattva's engagements with foundations and nonprofits across India and Southeast Asia. As part of his role, Ratish has extensive experience in conceptualizing and implementing large-scale solutions that bring together leading foundations, corporations, civil society organizations, and the government. He has extensive hands-on experience across a wide range of sectors. And finally, our very experienced moderator, Mr. Ashok Pamidi, CEO, NASSCOM Foundation. A purpose-driven leader with over 30 years of cross-functional experience, Ashok leads NASSCOM Foundation by aligning, scaling, and sustaining initiatives to help propel the industry in achieving its goals of social transformation and impact through technology. He's an IT industry veteran, and we are very, very grateful that he's agreed to moderate our panel. So without further ado, I would like to turn the proceedings over to Ashok for the length of the panel discussion.
Thank you, Alaknanda. It's indeed an honor and pleasure to be here amongst illustrious leaders, as you rightly pointed out, stalwarts in their respective field of social sector as well as industry. Human workers in the age of automation, what does the future hold? Well, it seems to be a very, very interesting topic and very apt for the current environment, because we are talking about $1 trillion digital economy. The digital ecosystem in India can create about $1 trillion of economic value and about 65 million jobs in India by 2025. 40 to 45 million workers will require reskilling to be redeployed for these jobs. The demand for digital skills in India is 8 times of what is available and will rise to 20 times by 2024. However, 80% of our engineers are unemployable for any job in the knowledge economy. Gartner predicts that digital skills are in demand across all sectors and within roles that traditionally did not require them. Digital fluency on new age technology is required irrespective of what people do. Professional skills are as critical as technology skills in the future of work. So what does the real future hold? And we have leaders out here in social domain as well as industry leaders. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting conversation to hear from them their viewpoints on what does the future hold in the age of automation. So I would like to ask straight away to Gayatri, who's now I understand is in learning and development, apart from being a diversity and inclusion champion. Like, why are we talking about human workers? Do we need to distinguish between human workers and machine workers in the age of automation?
Thank you so much, and a very good evening to all of you in this call. Pleasure to join all of you. And Ashok, thank you for opening the round and asking me a question. See, historically, automation has played a very important ingredient, right? If you look at economic growth, it helps us. It helped us feed, a large population when we moved or transitioned from subsistence farming, because subsistence farming was not very supportive to large scale growing population that we have. If you look at the industrial revolution, mass production, I mean, that could not have happened without automation, right? So depending on where you are or who you ask, there could be, two sides of the coin. That automation destroys jobs and does not create jobs. And the other side would say, it definitely creates jobs. But, in reality, both are partially true, right? Constantly, there are new jobs being created and new competencies that we need to get upskilled on, because they're constantly evolving. So while certain old jobs could die or wither away, there are new jobs coming up, and if you need to differentiate between, say, human workers and machine, you still need human intelligence, and it needs to be backed, right? The emotions, passion, awareness, our motivation, even though machine learning is picking up cognitive skills. So to me, I don't think, human beings will ever be redundant. I think we just need to constantly keep learning and evolving.
Thank you, Gayatri. You mentioned that, jobs will always, you'll have to relook at the jobs, and jobs will never go away. So in that context, when Radha, of course, right now in US, so I have a question for you, Radha. We are talking about one of the biggest impact of AI would be driverless vehicles, right? And we're talking about driverless trucks, nanobots, and NLP, that's called as natural language processing, etc. So what impact do you think they'll have on the jobs of drivers? They say that millions of jobs will be lost in US especially, and all the healthcare workers, because we are all talking about health tech. What do you think would be the kind of technology progress and other things which are going to happen in these directions?
Thank you, Ashok. And yes, good morning, greetings from California. We are iMerit is a technology services company in digital data services and the applications of AI to a variety of societal problems. And so first, let me start with just our workforce itself, because this is a very important connection into Anudeep and the Future Learn. We're about 3,500 employees. 54% of our workforce are young women, which is pretty unique in the technology space. And 80% are young people who come from under-resourced backgrounds of different kinds. So we call it a very inclusive workforce. So your question about what are these technologies? So a lot of our work is about applying AI and digital technologies into autonomous, we call it autonomous technologies, autonomous vehicles. So, and not just vehicles, autonomous technologies on the whole, AI in medicine, precision agriculture, geospatial. So if you look at those societal applications, then you will see that if you take autonomous, for example, there's a lot of applications in driver safety, driver distraction. So it is actually augmenting the use of these technologies, is augmenting safety and the ability to be able to do deliveries, to be able to do cancer cell categorization, precision agriculture. So these are as applicable, if not more applicable from a societal point of view. In our case, we're only 3,500 people, small compared to large IT services, but we created 750 jobs in the COVID year, just from September till today. And why are these jobs being created? Because the applications of digital and AI have become even more important in a remote, distributed, and work from home, work from anywhere kind of world. So a lot of our work, whether it's for healthcare workers, look at what's happening with healthcare. You're using telemedicine to be able to actually deliver a lot of healthcare. Our own employees, our average age of our workforce is about 24.5. It's a very young workforce, born digital, born mobile, regardless of where they've come from. And it's these skills of future learn, not just the technologies around cloud and social media and security, etc., but the behavioral aspirations around whether it's teamwork with clients, curiosity, being able to self-learn, and actually problem solving are very important in the application of these technologies. And that is what is the difference between the reskilling and having the current set of skills. And so for us, we see whether it's healthcare workers or drivers, as you asked them, actually the number of jobs increasing, and that's certainly true of our own workforce as well.
Thank you.
This is globally true, Ashok. Yeah,
absolutely. I agree with you. But, this is one question which comes to my mind. You mentioned about autonomous vehicles, telemedicines, right? So I would like, Murugan to look at this aspect. If all these machines are going to take over, what she mentioned is autonomous vehicles, telemedicines, and geospatials, all these aspects are going to replace, at least in India, you're going to find that human workers, are they really required in this case? So this some thought process which I'm having over there, Murugan. So what are your thoughts on this? What does it imply basically?
Thanks, Ashok. It's a pleasure to be here, the launch of this product. And to answer your question, Ashok, Gayatri and Radha touched upon several aspects. Gayatri talked about subsistence farming and why that's not. I'll go even way back, few thousand years, and she brought up farming. If you think about it, farming probably automated part of cooking, right? And that's just how, over generations, over thousands and thousands of years, that's just the way we have chosen. It's a choice that we are making as humanity, right? It's not like someone else is coming from another planet and saying, you got to automate this. It's a choice that we as humanity are making because we believe this is taking us towards a better world. And I see a lot of, I'm on YouTube, by the way, I'm looking at some of the comments. I see some of the students are very anxious, perhaps. And it is quite normal to be anxious and during any change. And the only difference between what's happening now and what used to happen maybe 20, 50,000 years ago was the rate of change is accelerated tremendously, right? But the fact remains that we are living in the most prosperous, most healthiest, it may not appear like that, but we are, and most peaceful time in human history. The world is a much better place today because of all the decisions that as humanity we've made. The world is still an awful place. You heard all the stories, and the world can be a much better place, right? So I think we have to come to terms with this reality is that at any point in time, the world, as a world that we live in, continues to be a better place than what it was if you take a longer period of lens in looking at it. So I think that's a quick answer, a long-winded answer as well. It's not, that robots or machines are going to take over. It's a nice sci-fi view, but that's a decision that we are taking. We are, as Radha beautifully said, with data, right? We've added jobs in the COVID year. The only number I read, and this was not a very comforting number, was we added 50 billionaires last year. And I was trying to think of some other number that would make me feel better. That's a great number, right? A company like iMerit operating where they are operating, adding 750 new jobs, 53% of them probably women, is in new technology, is proof enough to say that this is going to benefit humanity in general.
Thanks, Morgan. It's very interesting. Yes, I agree that certain sectors are doing well, even in the amidst COVID. One of them is the IT services sector and IT BPM. 138,000 jobs are likely to be added this year. So yes, you're right, and that's sense. But then when you look at disruption impacting across all sectors, the question comes is, what are the other sectors? What has an impact on skill development? Ratish, being a stalwart in the social sector, would you like to share some thoughts on this?
Thank you, Ashok. And I can only build on the wonderful answers my panelists have already given. Building on what Radha said, what she sees in the organization, in her organization, is actually what I'm seeing across the sectors. I was recently part of a deliberation that we convened with industry, social sector, and the government, and about how is healthcare going to evolve, especially in the light of the COVID crisis. And the single biggest prerequisite for us to be able to deliver higher value of healthcare is quality of talent on the ground. We are looking at new and emerging ways of using technology to be able to diagnose, screen, surveillance solutions for healthcare. What we need is a last mile talent that can actually use this technology, and add that human empathy element to it to make it possible for healthcare to be delivered. You looked at technology in the education space, and all of us as children learning from home. There has been a massive effort in reskilling teachers, and across private schools and public schools, to be able to learn better. We've created new jobs across sectors that we didn't actually imagine and require people, And Satwa actually did a study during the COVID time, and we realized that there are 25 new job roles not jobs, that are getting created during COVID, which require new people to be skilled. And each of these job roles can potentially create anywhere between 100,000 to 1 million jobs. So the environment around us, if you don't look at it from a skilling lens, but look at it from every other industry lens, every business leader is basically turning around and saying, I need skilled people, to run my business. I need better talent to run my business. So I think when you look at the sectoral view, that is the opportunity that you see. I just want to end with what I've always seen as the irony of India, right? If you look at it, we have the highest demographic dividend in the world today. We also apparently have the highest skill deficit in the world. So it's a classic case of having high supply, high demand, but supply not meeting the demand, right? And that is really what is playing out in terms of the skill scenario. And I think the video that started this entire session is the point that I think is important for us to look at, which is we need people who can learn fast, because the roles that they're going to study for don't exist today. And how we make that happen, I think, is really where the challenge and the opportunity is.
Yeah. Thanks, Ratish. Taking the clue from demographic dividend you mentioned, I guess demographic dividend has actually become a demographic gift for a country like ours, because the average age of our country is going down, almost every 5 years. So, but then we spoke about many sectors. So I would like Ratna, who's again illustrious leader in the social sector. What are the sectors, or which sectors do you see are creating more jobs? And if you are able to, share some examples of this new job which is getting created in the current pandemic situation.
Thank you so much, Ashok, and good evening, everyone. I think on the panel, we've had some very interesting insights coming in. Ritesh mentioned about healthcare, Radha mentioned about the entire automation and the digitization. What we are seeing is on the ground, there are and almost all sectors go through cycles, right? So EdTech right now is really buzzing, and there is a lot happening on the EdTech space. EdTech in itself, is helping in skilling and upskilling. I think the other important thing is upskilling, right? Because there are already workers over here which need to adapt to the changing scenario, as Ratish was mentioning. And for that, it is very important that they get internal and external help in that. Right. So EdTech in that sense is, creating a lot of opportunities, and there are jobs getting created over there. The other sector that we are seeing where, a lot of action is happening is on the logistics space, right? And the logistics space essentially is buzzing because of the entire pickup of e-commerce, and including social e-commerce, and that has been enabled by the high speed internet in the last couple of years. I think Jio has really made a difference in being able to connect the rural villages and towns, right? So the last mile delivery, which is required by e-commerce, that is very people intensive. So that in turn is creating jobs, right? Social e-commerce platforms like OneBridge, Frontier Markets, what they are doing is they are creating entrepreneurs within the villages, right? So they are creating opportunities for income earning in those places. And a lot of them, like, for example, Frontier Markets is primarily focused on women. In the next 5 years, they're looking to employ or create sustainable income for 1 lakh women in tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 towns. So, those are new businesses which are emerging a lot because of technology. Because most of these businesses, the backbone is the AI, the data analytics, and the tech stack that they have. I think healthcare, as we all know, and this pandemic has brought to the fore that healthcare, there is a lot of demand and supply gap. And a lot of it has to be allied healthcare workers, right? Technicians, people who are able to do, the patient handling. Uh, Telemedicine is something which we've seen pick up very rapidly during this pandemic. And that requires different skill sets. If I remember correctly, the research that came out from NSDC said that the requirement for allied healthcare workers is about 3.5 million. And actually, the current availability or the supply per annum is only about 50,000-60,000. So what happens is that there are people who actually enter the workforce, but they are not skilled. And that creates its own challenges.
Thank you, Ratna. Ratna did mention about areas like edtech, logistics, health, e-commerce. So the question I have for Radha is, how do you expect future learn to help with skills and job creation in all these areas she mentioned about all the different sectors? The question which comes to us is, how do you expect future learn to help in this skills and job creation?
Yeah, so this is a question very dear to us, because we actually partner with Anudeep in terms of we're piloting the whole future learn and the things that we are talking about today. So when you look at what is needed in the kinds of technology, digital AI services that we offer, then you need to be able, besides actually knowing, what's called SMAC technologies, like, you need to know technology of social media and mobile and analytics and things like that. But a very critical part of the learning environment, everything is changing, has changed in the last year. Critical part of the learning environment are the skills around problem solving, curiosity, the very things, the teamwork, and the ability, not just the teamwork among the teams inside the company, but a lot of our teamwork is with the client, because we are sharing a digital platform with the client. That's extremely critical. So these become very important skills in future learn and our ability to do that. So let me give an example. When, of course, the lockdown happened, we had maybe 2,700 employees, all working from centers. It was bustling centers, and all the work was being done there. And overnight, it became work from home or work from a village or work from wherever people were. And it is these very important skills that actually created, I say that the innovation and almost entrepreneurship of every employee became extremely important. And this is part of the future learn environment that is being created. And that is what enabled us to go from 100% in centers and to 100% almost, or 95% work from home, and being able to innovate around that and thereby then create jobs. So this is a very important part as we look forward. Are these kind of future learned skills, as I talked about, the problem solving and the teamwork and the self-learning and curiosity. These are as important as the technology skills around being able to do AI technology, social media. Almost all of our work are digital technologies. It's as important to have these future learned skills. And I think that is what is going to make a difference in whether it's a healthcare worker in telemedicine, whether it's an AI or a technology worker from the kind of workforce that we have. That is going to make a difference. And that's why, for me, piloting this whole future learn is not only piloting it in partnership with Anudeep, but super critical to our employees as well.
Thank you, Radha. Coming to these jobs of AI, for example, we are all speaking about it, and new technologies like quantum computing are likely to come. And they say that in AI itself, there are almost 11 different job roles, in cybersecurity around 13. And many of the jobs, we don't know what is the likelihood of the various job roles which is going to come in the future. So the question which comes to us is, how do you prepare the people for jobs that actually don't exist? We don't know exactly what is going to be in the future. So the question I have for Gayatri is, what do you think we should do? How do you prepare these people for jobs that don't exist?
Thank you, Ashok, again. And I think Radha beautifully articulated, balancing learning with EQ and IQ. IQ and building on technology and learning will continue, but EQ is so the need of the hour, and it, we had an unprecedented 2020. So we truly know that that these are skills are as relevant or equally relevant. So how do you look at future skills? One is, of course, the organization. See, I'm from an IT, so I will always be talking about automation, and these are literally embedded in our culture, right? So this is our business. But look at the other side, the receiving side. What should they do, and how should they go about the whole thing? You don't drive automation for the sake of automation, right? It needs to be something which is a need and which is embedded into the culture of your organization. So you need to understand what is it that's required for you to move in that direction. When it comes to skilling, it's not just about understanding the need or the purpose of skilling as much as understanding what is the business that is required. So if you're going to look futuristically, where is the business moving, and how are you adapting skilling in your organization to look at the future than just the current? So a learning organization will embed, future needs into its process of evolution, unquestionably. At the macro level, if you look at children, I think it's so in the need of the hour to ensure that technology is adopted and adapted by them. You need to look at addressing the needs of the future for the children. And I guess this is a standing case that we're just talking with Anudeep. It's so important to equip children for the future. And that's very much part of what we're doing now, right?
Right. So thank you, Gayatri, but I have one more question for you. So you mentioned, that Capgemini, of course, is obviously a digital leader, But how are you sort of looking at reskilling challenge in your own organizations? What are the steps you are taking for the reskilling initiatives?
I don't think it's a choice at all, Ashok. I mean, if you look at it, the shelf life is a couple of years. So, I mean, the entire workforce has to be in a continuous learning mode. There is simply no choice when it comes to reskilling and continuously upskilling. 2021 is equally the focus. We had our CEO, Ashwin, publish this information and talk externally to this. Unquestionably the focus for us, when it comes to upskilling and future skills. And we don't, it's not just about the future of business as much as the way we look at, growing as an organization. So it is a part of the way we work.
It's basically what you're telling. It's a culture of innovation and a culture of learning. That's what you're absolutely great to hear that. So coming purely from the CSR side, the question which comes to my mind is for Ratish, probably you can look at it like, what do you think should be the role of CSR, or what role do you think a CSR can play in ensuring continuous skill dissemination and closing the future skill gap?
Yeah, I think an important recognition for all CSRs leaders who are investing in skill development today is that we are at a point of inflection, in skill development today. Like what we have traditionally assumed skill development to be and have funded, I think we've gone through a circle where we recognize some or most of those programs actually don't deliver as much returns as we had hoped for the students that were trained, And there is a paradigm shift or a learning today that we are preparing the skill development environment for a more agile work environment, and we are for an agile workforce. And not all of us have the answers of what is going to work and how it's going to work, right? And hence, probably the three things that CSRs should keep in mind as they look at this is can in their minds think of the investments in skill development as innovation investments, because the way you measure the impact of investments that are innovation investments versus steady, standard investments are very different. You're willing to take more risks. You adapt to learning behavior in terms of the investments that you make. I think that is important from a CSR point of view, number one. Number two is to really look at supporting what I think Radha rightly mentioned as skills that are perhaps non-domain, non-technical, but are interesting in new ways of building what people are calling 21st century skills, problem-solving skills, social emotional learning, etc. That's always been a focus within skill development, but I think that is now becoming front and center in terms of what can be done. Three is, I think we are also at a pivotal point where the role of technology in skill development and the value that it can deliver is actually starting to mature because of the availability of technology in these areas and solutions in these areas. And finding interesting ways of enabling continuous learning that moves beyond the traditional model of capture and learn sort of an approach, I think is going to be critical. And I think as the people, as CSRs are looking at their portfolio of skill grantees and investments that they're making, to look at encouraging such introduction of technology into the programs that are existing today or supporting technology-based skilling models, I think will become very, very important. The bottom line really is, as you're looking at skilling investments, can you look at it from a point of view of return on investment? We've done a study which shows that introduction of digital skilling programs can sometimes result in 46% more salaries than what you get normally. And that data is available today to say starting salaries to investment costs, what is the trend? And I think CSR donors taking that ROI mindset, the return on investment mindset on their skilling programs and looking at, for this input, what is a commensurate value that I'm getting, and using it as a way to continuously improve programs is very, very critical in the light of where we are today in the skilling ecosystem.
Talking about return on investments and looking at the right type of programs is what you mentioned. So we have seen that Cisco and especially Murugan is doing a lot of work around various areas around skilling, right? And from your perspective, I would like to basically draw upon your own reskilling initiatives in your organizations to what exactly you're looking at, let's say from the CSR perspective. How exactly are you integrating these two aspects? Because finally at the overall macrocosm level, what you do in the organization is actually has to reflect at the social sector level too, because you are actually true to what you are doing within, you also try to do it externally. I do know that you are taking a lot of initiatives on this, but I would like you to quickly draw upon this return on investment to the kind of investment you are doing and how exactly the 21st century skilling is playing a very, very important role on that. So Murugan, would you like to, on that?
Sure. I'll maybe take a couple of different slices at it. One is, as Gayatri mentioned, when you all constantly need to unlearn and relearn, you revert back to learning fundamentals. And what we have seen is, especially with Networking Academy, there's some chatter on YouTube on cybersecurity. Believe it or not, Cybersecurity Essentials is our #1 course. And it's a very basic course on cybersecurity. It's not technology or vendor specific. It's about what is cybersecurity, why is it important, and it's more than just how to browse safely. It's a good, 30-hour type of a course. 65,000 learners in India last year learned cybersecurity essentials on NetAcad. You'd be surprised that we all know there's a very popular programming teaching startup. It is out there. It is a venture darling and for a great exit. But there are, 3 times the number of learners on NetAcad learning programming in India. And that's nearly 1 lakh learners learning student. I stop saying the word students because we actually don't know. These are learners who are actually reskilling themselves also. There are learners like me who are upskilling as well. And students tend to convey someone who is probably in college. So nearly 1 lakh learners last year learned basic programming, Python, Linux, C++, all of those things on the platform. So I really see the trend where, and all of this is happening in a self-learn and assisted online learn model. So I really see the trend where this reskill, upskill is happening, self-driven, as on the cloud, and reverting back to some core foundational skills, which will then enable you to get into IoT. If you want to work with sensors, you probably need to know Linux, right? If you want to build the next generation of networks, whether it is geo or enterprise network, you will need to know the foundations of cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, machine learning. All of those things have built in these foundational things. So that's a trend that we are certainly seeing. The other thing we have done is also partner with NASSCOM. As you know, NASSCOM Future Skills Prime. We are on Future Skills Prime. We partner with NASSCOM Foundation. We partnered with Anudeep in really kind of taking this model of online self-paced learning for foundational skills and scaling it across the country. In just the last 18 months, we have reached 500,000, 5 lakh learners, right, on these foundational skills. So it's a tremendously positive data point that shows that there is, and we went from like 20,000. So there's a tremendous upsurge in learning these foundational skills online. And that is really the right way to do reskill and upskill. I also see some comments about how big tech companies don't necessarily hire from. Not everyone does everything, as good as Radha and Imerit team does in terms of being democrat, really, reaching the underserved. We have done something, to try to democratize new grad hiring in Cisco, right? And for the first time, we said we used to only go to 20 colleges in the country, like most multinationals. And last year we said this is not fair because there are thousands of engineering colleges and brilliant minds all over the country. Let's open up fresh grad hiring, a big percentage of our fresh grad hiring to anybody in the country who wants to participate. It was all done online. Believe it or not, the #1 state that contributed to the talent pool was not Karnataka, not Telangana, not Andhra Pradesh, not Tamil Nadu. It was Madhya Pradesh. #2 was Odisha. #3 was Rajasthan. So if companies really want to take this seriously, there is a channel, there is a way to do this to really democratize access to opportunities which reside in large metropolitan cities. So I think not only reskilling, upskilling, but also that has to translate to providing access to opportunities to everyone. Right? And it's a fair point someone made on.
Thank you, Dhiman. So we are almost at the end of that, but I think before I close, I would like a last question for Ratna. What we see is we foresee more people becoming job creators in the future. How are we laying the foundations for the same?
I think this is a very interesting thing, right? Job creation gets accelerated in a two-way approach. One is we need new enterprises and new entrepreneurs coming to the fore and creating enterprises where by virtue of their growth, they're creating jobs, right? So the whole startup ecosystem, which can be supported by mentoring, networking platforms, funding, which is also a very important lifeline for startups. If we are able to fix that and create more startups and Invest India, Niti, some of the incubator and accelerator platforms have been doing that. So that is one way, Ashok, where we see more companies coming in, more growth, and by virtue of that, more jobs getting created. The other very important angle, and that's primarily the lifeline of India, is the MSMEs. Right? Today they contribute 30% to the GDP. But if you look at the MSMEs, 90% of the MSMEs have like less than 10-15 people. So they're like really small. And one of the things which will help in the growth of these MSMEs is skilling, because they need the right skill sets to be able to move to the next level. Digitization, I think in the last 1 year, we've realized that MSME digitization has become a very, very important aspect for growth of the economy, right? And funding, which is basically their ratings, banks, etc., which need to be supportive to that segment. So if you're able to focus energies on these two aspects of creating more enterprises and helping the MSMEs grow, I think there can be a lot of job creation that can happen from those two angles.
Hey, Ratna. So we have almost reached the end of the hour, and I know we have such illustrious panelists out here, stalwarts in their respective field, and listening to all of you, there's a lot of lessons I'm learning, a lot of points which I can take over, and I'm sure the people in the YouTube live, I'm sure they want us to go on for some more time, but it's unfortunate that we got to close because we have almost reached the end of the hour. But a couple of points which I would like to end with, and some of the things which I would like to summarize is, first point which I saw, what we heard is continuous learning. I think it's a lifelong learning is what we hear. And we spoke a lot about technical skill. Yes, certainly they're important, but equally important are professional skills. And that's where Future Learn's, platforms like Future Learn comes in handy. And finally, I would like to conclude by saying that all of you were absolutely fantastic. And I would like to quote from my favorite book, Future Shock, which I read probably when I was a kid. It's basically called, from Alvin Toffler, who says that the literate of the 21st century is not the one who knows how to read and write, but the one who knows how to unlearn and relearn. So with that, I would like to thank all of you, and Shubhratri. Have a great day ahead. Thank you very much. Back to Alaknanda.
Thank you, Ashok.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to each and every one of our panelists and, of course, our moderator. That was a very insightful discussion, and I think there's a lot of food for thought there. The world is changing, of course, at a very rapid pace, exciting times ahead, and the need to keep learning. So let's take a look at how Future Learn fits into this environment. I'll invite you to take a look at the following video. Could we have the video, please?
It is this question that has brought Capgemini and Anudeep Foundation together. Since its inception in 2007, Anudeep has trained over 100,000 youth on market-aligned technological skills, placing a majority of them in IT-enabled jobs. The Future Learn product is the latest feather in its cap.
Anudeep's Future Learn product takes two ideas, knowledge and behavior, and seamlessly combines them. On the one hand, it offers various interesting courses on key 21st century themes. On the other, it encourages a set of 21st century behavioral skills that learners are trained to practice while taking these courses. Our emphasis is on self-learning on a personalized technology platform complemented by group work with limited facilitation.
Anudeep's Future Skills courses align with 4 broad themes. These are Technology Foundations, Higher Order Thinking Foundations, Communication and Career Readiness, and Global Citizenship. Technology Foundations helps familiarize a learner with the basic concepts of 21st century digital literacy built around the topics of information and media literacy, cloud, analytics, social, mobile and security. Higher Order Thinking Foundations brings structure, rigor, user centricity and innovation to the thinking process by exposing learners to the world of logical reasoning, computational thinking and design thinking. Career Readiness helps develop English communication capabilities, as well as other skills required for an individual to grow into a responsible professional individually and in a team. Finally, Global Citizenship introduces learners to self, community and cross-cultural awareness, dealing with change, and ethical and moral reasoning in everyday life. These courses, however, tell only one half of the story. The other half involves the practice of 21st century behaviors, including curiosity and self-learning, critical thinking and problem-solving, collaboration and teamwork. Using results from well-established behavioral research, we model curiosity in terms of a learner's attention, retention and exploration. Explaining new concepts using relatable examples, supporting a rich visual experience, offering interactive knowledge checks and carefully curated supplementary content are examples of strategies used to invoke a learner's curiosity. Self-regulated learning is supported by giving learners the guidance and opportunity to plan learning goals, reflect on their content and their own learning behaviors, and demonstrate persistence towards outcomes. Similarly, through creatively designed course projects and group activities, learners are provided with many opportunities to collaborate with each other, work as a team, think critically and solve complex problems. Analytics on learning and interaction data are then used to reveal key insights on the learner's understanding and demonstration of these 21st century behaviors. A set of rich interactive dashboards allow exploration and drill down into the details, surfacing behavioral strengths and improvement areas that interventions, whether through technology or a facilitator, may focus on. For example, a student who receives poor feedback on empathy and respect from a team member may benefit from a mentoring session from the facilitator. A student who is struggling to adhere to study plans may be automatically notified by the system about upcoming deadlines and the importance of maintaining timeliness.
So what you get is not only a set of academic scores, but a view of the students' practice of core 21st century skills. And this provides a holistic picture which allows for targeted intervention to ensure student success. And this is what makes the system unique.
Anudeep is planning a series of releases of Future Learn over the next several months, adding new courses, making the technology platform smarter, and rolling it out to our students. We are keen to partner with other training organizations to bring the best of future skills to the widest possible audience.
We owe it to our young men and women to train them on the critical skills that matter for the unpredictable world of tomorrow. As machines intrude upon our lives, there cannot be a better time than now to hone the skills and shape the behavior that make us uniquely human. As the Greek philosopher Plutarch said, the human mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. Come, let us together light that fire. We look forward to working with you to design the future of learning.
Thank you so much for watching. I would now like to invite Mr. Ashwin Yagdi, the CEO of Capgemini in India and the game changer known for his commitment to social initiatives. Ashwin has over 25 years of experience in areas of consulting, technology, and large outsourcing services in international and multicultural environments. Ashwin has played a vital role in defining the strategic roadmap the CSR and has been instrumental in promoting social responsibility initiatives within Capgemini. We would love to hear a few words from you, Ashwin, on the lessons we could learn from the pandemic and how those would impact online learning. Over to you.
Thank you, Alaknanda, and thanks to all the panelists. I think it was quite an interesting discussion, and it's very pertinent to me because till a few days ago, in addition to being the CEO for Capgemini, I also had the role of being the Capgemini Group's automation leader. So a lot of what was spoken about in terms of AI or automation was something which was part of my second job. So it was quite interesting to hear the perspective of the panelists and all those who have spoken. So first of all, I want to start with a big thank you and congratulations to Anudeep and all those who have been involved in building this fantastic product. Again, the last video illustrated what is our real need today. And part of it is also visible in this event itself. So what really pandemic did was it entirely disturbed or disrupted the whole learning experience. And possibly for the good. I think most of us would probably have a school-going kids or teenagers, and their entire learning now is virtual. It was an experience also for the teachers, I would believe so, but definitely it was a big learning experience besides the core content for the learners. So what do we really need? First thing we really need is a mechanism where we can train people in a hybrid model, virtual plus physical. And that's very important. Yes, today the schools are not open, or the colleges or the academies are not open, but we need the right blend. And definitely the Future Learn platform addresses part of it. The second thing which is very important is everybody has his or her own pace of learning, which was very difficult when you have a class of 30 or 40 to train. The teacher usually follows a common rhythm, and for some smart kids it's too slow, and for some not so smart it's too fast. What really a platform like this does is gives a learner the opportunity to learn at his or her own pace. The third very, very important thing about learning today is the foundation skills. And I think Radha spoke about it very well, and it was also called out in the video and in the platform. While we can teach them on a new AI tool or a new automation platform today, the reality is there is a new tool every day. So how does the learning change? The learning needs to change to create the fundamentals of a tool or the concepts, and which are then supplemented by a lot of thinking and curiosity to understand and build everything on first principles. And that's how you also try to build our training now, is first educate them on the first principles. The tool or the product is secondary. And I think, again, that's very much in the tool, and that's what we see as the future of learning. And last but not the least, one very important element, and again was very well called out by the panelists as well as in the last video, is a tool needs a very strong softer elements of training. So it's not just the hard skills about technology or even about the first principles of learning technology, but it's also about working in a very, very different remote environment, multicultural environment, having the ability to converse. And it's not always about the language. Even sometimes, even if you don't speak very fluent English or fluent language, you can still do a very positive and strong communication. I think these are some of the very important skills which are required, which again I see built in the tool. So in that sense, I'm very happy and proud that the tool really addresses the future of learning and looks at it from the learner's point. Interestingly, I was in a very recent forum with CEOs in NASSCOM, and Ashok, it was about the future platform which NASSCOM has built, and we all agreed, as in most of the things which we are saying future is actually not future, it's now. Okay. So yes, we have this future learn platform, recognize the rate at which the technology is changing. A lot of future is becoming now. So even while building the tool and platform, we have to be very agile to address it. With that, I'm very happy that we partnered with Anudeep on building such a fantastic platform. And it plays very well with our brand statement, get the future you want. And something like Future Learn will really enable it, support it. So thanks a lot for being great partners and looking forward to really taking it to the learners and building future careers.
Thank you so much, Ashwin. Our next speaker was to be Ms. Shobha Meera, who's the Chief Corporate Social Responsibility Officer for the Capgemini Group. But unfortunately, she was called away on a slight emergency. But I believe she has sent some words across, which Anurag Pratap would like to read out for us.
Thank you, Alaknanda. This is one of the most difficult job that one has to do when you have to convey a message that your leader has asked you to convey, but I'll do justice to that. I'm starting with Shobha's message, quote, my hearty congratulations. Just give me a minute. Yeah. The message says that my hearty congratulations to the Anudeep and Capgemini and teams on the launch of this pivotal platform that sits at the intersection of talent readiness, both for the now and for future, opportunities, employabilities, and the key skill gap in the technology industry. I'm excited for the impact that this platform will have, critical for the success of the youth and emerging workforce in India, and addressing a key need of the industry, unquote. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to convey the message of Shobha. Over to you, Alknanda.
Thank you so much for that. With that, we are at the end of our program for the evening. Thank you so much to all our panelists and our wonderful audience, everybody who has tuned in and who's watching. Thank you so much to the Capgemini team for all your support as always. If you have any questions for us on the program or for any of our panelists, please do drop us a line on the email ID mentioned on the screen. Take care and have a very good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Laknanda. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.